Welcome to a special edition of Spotlight On with Peter Hedges, and I'm Carolina Bonetti, and we're getting into all things Ben is Back.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
So we pulled up this song for Peter because this is how I outsource my playlist. Who are we listening to?
Katie Herzig.
And the song is called
Wish You Well.
All right, so now you can find it. This is one of Peter's favorite songs. And
it is.
As you should know, Peter is the writer-director of Ben is Back.
I am. It's true. You tell the truth.
And then I want to just tell the synopsis for people who may not know, who haven't seen it yet, or who want to go see it. What is Ben is Back about?
Oh, I'm going to tell the synopsis?
Well, you wrote it.
Oh, yes. Okay. I thought you said you were going to tell it, and I was like, oh, good. No, it's a story of a young man, Ben Burns, played by Lucas Hedges, who surprises his family on Christmas Eve morning by returning home. He's living in a sober living facility. He's 77 days clean. He's been a user of heroin, but he's 77 days clean. And he is greeted warmly, but with worry, too, by his mother, Holly, played by Julia Roberts, and the rest of his family, who's very suspicious about why he'd come home. And the story takes place over that 24-hour period that leads up to Christmas morning. How'd I do?
You did wonderful.
I felt that was pretty good.
You killed it.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for being on. I do want to talk about that scene, actually. I was really moved by it. The first scene where we see Julia and Ben really together, or well, Holly and Ben really together, is in the kitchen when he's telling her about the car and the journey there, and she's overcompensating with her laughter. How was filming that scene for you? Because the emotional beats in it are so overwhelming that's the first time I started to tear up in this movie.
Oh wow! Well, first of all, I'm thrilled to hear that you cried, just because I'm told that you don't
so
cry.
Much.
No, I'm kidding. No, no one ever told me that that you don't cry. But why I'm particularly thrilled is because of the nature of how we had to shoot this film, and the weather. We couldn't start with the very first scene of the movie, and the very first scene we shot was the scene that you reference.
Really?
And so we hadn't really had time to rehearse in the space, and it's a big scene for Lucas, of course, and I'm his father, and I'm directing, and they just brought it. They were so available to each other. They played so beautifully off each other. And what I learned, and I know from my own life, from the people in my life who've been struck by the disease of addiction, but I knew also from my research, is that when you're in that pink cloud phase where a person is just put together a bit of recovery, but they don't have enough recovery to really be able to even take a sigh of relief. There's peril at every moment. You're nervous all the time. And I felt that they're having this, what was so beautiful about the scene is they're having this wonderful exchange. And you can feel that there's love there, but there's also underneath it this just dread and concern, and that they could both embody that. And Catherine Newton, who's also so exquisite in the scene. I'm just really proud of the scene. I love that that it was impactful for you.
Very. It really, as soon as I saw that scene, I was like, oh, this is that movie. Okay, this is what I'm in for. But I actually have some photos from the set that we can pull up of.
That's our first day.
Yeah, of Julia and Lucas on set. Your cinematographer there, have you worked with Stewart? Help me with his last name.
Stewart Drybird.
Drybird.
Academy Award nominated DP. He shot the piano, and he did that wonderful Walter Mitty film with Ben Stiller. He's a great DP. On my previous film, we did some additional photography in North Carolina for 2 days.
Was that on the Life of Timothy Green?
The Odd Life of Timothy Green. And Stewart lives in my neighborhood, and John Toll, who'd shot that film, wasn't available. And Stewart came and did those 2 days with me, and we had such a good time that I thought if I ever get a chance to do a full film with him, I could learn so much. That's my stomach growling. Did you hear that?
Did.
If you picked that up, that was real. That's not an effect. That's never happened. I'm so glad I didn't fart.
Oh my goodness! Somebody get this man a granola bar.
But it was. Yes, I'm underfed. There's no question. These lower budget films, you just don't get to eat. But the best part of filmmaking is that you work with people who, in their various fields, do what they do much better than you could ever do what they do. Don't try to diagram that sentence. But what I mean is...
No, I completely understand.
I'm glad.
I tried to shoot a short film this weekend.
Right. Yeah.
No, I have a whole newfound respect for lighting and sound and...
Oh, yeah. Oh, very much.
Wow.
But the best part of the gig is that you are constantly being taught by people, and so what I've learned to do is learned how to ask for help, but I've also one of my strengths, and I could go on at great length about my weaknesses, but one of my strengths is I know what I don't know, and so I can walk into a room and work with Stewart and say, I don't know how to do this, but I want the movie to feel this way. And he'll say, oh, well, shoot it in a wider format. Or what if we do anamorphic lenses because the depth of field, well, that's that. And he said the depth of field will be such that it will you'll feel the face in a very intimate way. And I thought, I'm just going to keep doing what you think we should do.
Which I wanted to touch on that with you, because later on in the film, when Holly and Ben go on their journey together to get back this dog, and they're in the car, the way it was shot often at times made me feel as if I was feeling all of Holly's emotions as Holly felt them because of how close we were inside.
That's right. See, there's an instance where I didn't necessarily know how to do it, but I was able to say, I want to feel at this movie that we're either in Holly's point of view, primarily, and then there are moments when we're in Ben's point of view. And where film can be so impactful, particularly films that deal with hard subjects, even though there's a ton of love in this story, where it can be so impactful is when you, as the viewer, as the audience, can actually feel you're being transported into what another person's experience is. And that's what we tried to do in this film, is to make you feel that you're not watching a film, even though you are. Of course, it's Julia Roberts and Lucas Hedges, but ultimately your experience is that you feel like you're watching people, and that hopefully when the film's over, you're not only, hopefully you're thinking, wow, that was a really remarkable cinematic experience, but what you're really thinking about is your own life and your own family and people you know who are struggling, or people you know who have not given up on you when you've gone through a hard time, that kind of thing.
We definitely accomplished that.
Yes.
I wanted to ask, how many days did it take to film the kitchen scene? We also have a photo of you directing Lucas Hedges that, for those of you watching who might not be aware, because apparently Courtney, who plays the stepfather in the film, was not aware that Lucas Hedges is in fact Peter Hedges' son.
When actually,
You're his father. No,
I'm his father more than he's my son. This is my new way to say it. I'm his father. But yes.
Yes.
So, there's a picture of us. That was probably the first day of filming, which is scary because I already look tired. We shot the film in 30 days, but you wondered about the kitchen scene, this scene?
Yeah, I just
this
wanted
scene was
to know
the
how many
first,
days.
Well, no, that was 3 hours we shot that scene.
The whole scene?
Yeah.
In 3 hours?
We had to.
Wow.
Yeah, we had to move fast. We moved fast.
And then that moves us in. We kind of already started moving into it, but I wanted to ask about your process and your choices for starting this film, because I read that you came and that you wrote Ben Is Back because you went to a writer's workshop.
What happened was several years ago, I lost a close friend, lost a favorite actor. We lost one of our greatest actors, and my favorite actor ever, and I almost lost a relative, and I knew I wanted to write about the heroin opioid epidemic because that was just too much untenable loss. I also had hit a wall creatively I'd been doing a ton of research. For 4 or 5 years, I researched the epidemic, and I filled myself with so much information and so many heartbreaking stories and so much knowledge that it was almost paralyzed me creatively. I didn't know what story to tell. But in a moment where I needed some help, I signed up for a workshop that a former student of mine was running, and I joined it. And it was me. I was the only man in the group. It was 6 women writers and me, and we had an assignment, and I wrote 3 pages, and then I wrote another 3 pages, and then and over 3 weeks I wrote 9 pages.
Wow.
And I thought, this is the beginning of something. Then I quit all my other projects, and I gave myself 6 weeks, and in 5 weeks and 5 days I wrote a first draft. It wrote me, like we said, and I found myself with a script that I knew I was going to make, and I would pay to make it. I would sell our house to film it, to make the movie. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that.
How did the script land in Julia Roberts' hands?
I sent it to a friend who's I used to work for at Disney, Nina Jacobson, one of our great producers, not believing she would produce the film. I just wanted her to see that I'd written something that I felt was my best work. She read it, immediately sent it to her partner, said, we need to produce it. So I never sent it to any other producers. We sent it to Julia's agents, and they responded very powerfully and quickly, and they agreed to forward it to Julia with a letter from me. And I felt that if she would come do this film and do what I thought she could do in the part, and then she did, of course, that and more, and I had really high hopes, and then she surpassed them in every way. I felt that this would be the best way to reach the most people. And the goal in this film has always been for people all over America to see it. And she responded, and very quickly, and then we got to make it.
I mean, what a journey. And
pretty exciting.
Yeah, when you were writing it, I wanted to break down some of the scenes. The scene when, oh, man, the hardest scene to watch for me was when she was in the car and he gets out to talk to his history teacher. And she realizes that they were trading sexual favors for the opioids or the prescription drug that he had. And how was it sitting there and writing that? Like, did you have to take breaks? Like, were you ever taken aback by where the story was taking you?
I was constantly surprised while writing, even up to the final moment of the film, which I thought I was heading in another direction without talking about the end, except other than to say I knew when it wrote itself that I went, oh, that's it. I'm sure those scenes were hard, but I also hard to write. But I felt that for a number of years I wasn't writing stories I had to tell. I was doing honorable work, but I felt reborn. I felt that this is a story that I'd been preparing my whole life to tell, and I felt I was in service of something bigger than my own career, bigger than my own idea of my talent, whether I think I have it or not. I felt it was bigger, and so there was an incredible joy in the writing of it. I also went back to my roots developmentally, where I had a group of actors on speed dial, and I would 10 in the morning, I might say, can you guys be here by 3? And I probably had a little theater company of 10 actors who sometimes it would be 2 of them, sometimes it would be 5 of them, and they would drop what they were doing and just come over, and I could hear what I was doing. And I felt emboldened by their generosity of spirit, and also they were mirroring back to me I wasn't insane, that this felt special. So I've been writing for 36 years, so when you land on a story or a story chooses you and you're in service of it, it was so joyful. It was just of course it cost a lot emotionally to write, but those are the only stories I want to tell. That if it's not asking everything of me, then how can I ask you to spend your hard-earned money to come sit in a theater and watch this.
Peter,
So,
that's a beautiful sentiment. You're going to make me start crying.
really?
Yeah, that's really deep. That's a beautiful reason to be a filmmaker.
Right. Well,
Speaking of which, you wrote one of my favorite movies of all time.
this is always scary, but
Do you know which one it is? Can we take a guess?
no, I don't know.
No, but take a guess.
Well, What's Eating Gilbert Grape?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to write first of all, I started writing a play when I was 23 that turned into a long monologue. And by the time I was 28, I'd sold it as a novel.
Mm-hmm.
And it came out. And one of my favorite filmmakers, Lasse Hallström, had made this film. It's one of my favorite films ever made, My Life as a Dog. I kept saying, can we send it to that My Life as a Dog guy? They didn't. My agents wouldn't send it to him. He ended up getting it in this miraculous way from a Swedish translator who said, you or Milos Forman should make the movie. And he asked me to write the screenplay. I'd never written a screenplay. And because he knew I wanted to make films. And so he was my film school. And that film, we started pre-production on that film, and I was still writing the script because Johnny Depp had loved the book. And so I'm really proud that that worked on any level because it was such a mad and wonderful way to make that film. Lasse actually came to the premiere in New York, and it was very meaningful to me that this man who gave me a huge early break and let me write my own adaptation of my novel, and often that doesn't happen. Mm-hmm. But he thought I could maybe do a good job, and he taught me so much that film still speaks to people. Fortunately, we had Johnny Depp and Leonardo DiCaprio giving amazing performances. Even John C. Reilly's in it, and Mary Steenburgen, and I'm very proud of that film, and I'm hopeful because it wasn't a movie a lot of people saw when it came out. Leonardo got nominated, and that actually forced them to put the movie actually in more than 10 theaters. But then it continued to have a life, and it's so encouraging that films that are about the human condition can find their way sometimes, if you're lucky, but into the cinematic zeitgeist, if you will.
Absolutely. And a fun fact for our listeners and our viewers is that
Here's the fun fact.
You also
I'm taking
wrote,
it right to the camera.
as you should. So the fun fact is that you wrote an early draft of The Devil Wears Prada.
I was the first writer on The Devil Wears Prada. I was in the middle of my third draft. I'd written what I thought was the best scene I'd ever written. I've never told this story. You're the only one to get it. And I was on tour with Pieces of April, a film I'd shot.
Yeah, I've seen it.
We made for $300,000 on a camera that's about a tenth as good as your iPhone. And we made it and shot it in 16 days. And I was on this wild publicity tour where I went to 22 cities. And I was in Washington, D.C. with Oliver Platt. And I was waking up every morning on tour and working on Devil Wears Prada in the bathroom of my hotel or whatever, wherever I could find the right place to type. And I'm in the middle of my third draft, and I'm at this interview with Oliver Platt, and the interviewer asked Oliver Platt, what's the truest thing you know about acting? He said, it's the only thing I know. If I'm working too hard, I'm doing something wrong. And I went, and I started to cry, and I excused myself from the interview, and I ran to my room, and I called my agent, and I said, give me the words. I'm trying so hard to give them what they want. But I think I'm going to hurt this project if I stay on it any longer. And so I wrote my statement on a napkin and called the producer. My agent told me what to say. And it was basically, I love this project. I don't think I'm helping it. And so I think the film turned out beautifully, and I was very proud of the work I did on it. They had about 7 writers after me. And the last writer was the credited writer, and I was happy to make sure she had that credit. As a first writer, you can often get credit because you do so much of the legwork. Mm-hmm. But I felt that I did as much as I could. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do is for a project you believe in is also accept your own limitations. And I did in that moment. And of course, once I saw the movie, I thought I'm a total jerk but then I remembered the reason why the movie's working is because I got out of the way. So.
But I will say, I feel like they asked you because one thing that is true throughout all of your filmmaking is you write phenomenal parts for women.
Oh, that
women
is all
are
I dream to
never,
do.
ever, not once, the sidekick or
Right.
the plus one. Like
Right.
you write beautifully.
Well, thank you. Tennessee Williams is my favorite playwright, and he wrote, as a man, better for women than anyone I've ever seen. And I'm never going to be a writer of his level, but that is the highest compliment you could pay me. I'm married to a remarkable woman. I'm the son of a remarkable woman. I'm the brother of a remarkable woman, and I'm writing my new movie script, which I worked on all morning, is all about a really spectacular character, and it's a woman, and I love writing for women, and that means a lot to me. I'm very, very thrilled with that. I'm just going to bask in that, and we're probably out of time, but let's just keep saying that.
Well, thank you, Peter. Thank you for all the beautiful work that you do. And you actually opened it up for my last question before we head out, is what interests you now? Because I read somewhere that you don't do like the next project based on like what people want. It's about topics that interest
Right.
you. So I was curious as to what interests you now, because you do have 2 projects in development.
Sure. Well, those 2 are listed and they're not active. But I am currently, I have 6 films I want to make in the next 9 years. I've never said that publicly. I have 4 scripts I've got in various stages. I only want to make urgent, necessary work for the rest of my time. I don't want to work for other people. I want, which has been joyful and wonderful, and I've learned a lot. I am working on something that deals with white fragility and systemic racism.
Wow.
I think it's one of our hugest issues. And so I'm kind of going after, I've never said this publicly, I can't even believe I'm saying it, but something about you gets me talking and saying things I'm going to go like, why did I say it? But the truth is, I feel that it's a huge issue in America right now, and I think I have a way in that it's a story I've never seen it told this way, and I'm completely nervous every time I start to work on it because I'm out of my comfort zone. But in that great way, you want to be out of your comfort zone. I feel like right now, to anybody watching who is a storyteller, who's painting or writing songs or making films, we have to bring it. We have to bring it right now. You have to look into yourself and say, why am I here in this world? And harness your energies, harness your gifts, whatever they are, and please bring them to the table. However you feel politically, we're just in a very divisive time. The planet's angry. We're polarized as a people, and we just need all hands on deck. Everybody as healthy as they can be, doing work that is the most impactful and the most authentic, that comes from you, the only work that you can do. And in that way, I'm so inspired by the kids from Parkland. I'm inspired by Lucas and Catherine and the young people I've gotten to work with, Lauren, who I'm working with on this tour. I'm meeting young people who are so alive, who are full of passion and fire, and they're re-inspiring me to become a better version of myself and a better and bolder artist. So what I'm working on is something urgent, and I'm super excited about it. And I hope to be back here talking with you about it very soon.
Thank you so much. And on that note, can you tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you on social media? Are you on social media?
I only follow my wife on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, Peter Hedges. You can friend me and maybe write me. But no, I'm not really on social media. I'm not that interesting.
You are my hero because of that. Well, guys, I'm Carolina Bonetti. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Spotlight On with the incredible Peter Hedges. I'm Carolina Bonetti. You can find me on Twitter at Carolina Bonetti and on Instagram at LenaBean113.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.